You're calling this meeting to order.
Yeah, that's you. Yes,
Okay, and we take roll, please.
roll call. I have Bachhuber, West, Shaw, Giebert, Jackson, Pollock, and Knorr absent. Or not here yet.
Okay. And first order is the minutes from last month.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 20th.
Motion by
And I
Dave.
will second.
Any discussion on that?
No.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll go on to the stormwater utility budget discussion, trying to get our motions straightened out here from from the last couple of meetings.
Yeah, we could get some advice. Well, the problem really,
And I agree with what you're saying here, so go ahead.
no, if I can, that's fine. When we first voted on that, we tied it to the aforementioned referendum, which isn't now gonna happen. Right. On that date, which was specified in the minutes. So
Okay.
I'm really looking for a motion to support staff, the two proposed staff positions, when, sustainable funds are available,
Okay.
which would mean that a referendum or the later topic, other funding sources, or additional, however you choose to
Because
phrase it.
there's not enough there now to support two staff and do anything else.
It wouldn't be sustainable.
Yeah.
Do we need to rescind our earlier vote from whatever that was? Or
I think that's probably the appropriate.
Well, I will make a motion to rescind the previous motion.
which was, I don't know when that was 2 months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, for whoever get the dates right, and to recommend supporting adding two requested staff positions after a sustainable and big huge capital letters source of funding is found.
I'll second that.
Motion. Got it?
Yep. I've got West and Shaw.
That's second. Discussion?
I'll second it.
No, it's already been seconded. Sorry, Straw beat you to it.
What are we doing, voting?
So I'm asking for discussion. Any discussion? Hearing none. All right, we'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, say aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay, all right. Next order of business is legislation, and go ahead, Richard. I got some things to comment on.
Sure, the assembly and the legislation assembly and the Senate are introducing a bill 455 and 457, which would put stormwater utilities under the purview of PSC, like the water utility is currently, and they would set the rates. But I don't know that would clear us from having to go to referendum anyway.
No, I
What do you mean they set the rates? Instead of $13, they could set it at.
You have to ask permission.
Right, you'd
Yeah.
have a rate case study, we'd give them all the same information, they would say, you are allowed to charge this much per ERU. Based on how you've developed your ERUs and that's the maximum that you can get. Or they would say, we're requesting $30, $90 in ERU. And they would approve that number if the rate case represented it in such a way that they could approve that.
And we would be doing that every couple of years, like Public Works has to do for the water rates.
Perhaps if you need a rate increase. Now, if
Yeah,
you were to get a rate that you didn't need to have a rate increase, you could sustain that for a while, maybe 5 years.
Currently, just to be clear, the water utility is under PSC control. Other things like electrical, gas, those are all PSC controlled.
Right.
Wastewater rates are not managed
They're not.
and controlled by PSC. And legislation, which I did read, specifically exempts wastewater, is careful to exempt wastewater.
Which seems
Seems odd to me. I have to believe, I can't speak off the record here, but this is coming from businesses in whatever municipality across the state that are not happy with this charge, and feel they're being unfairly charged.
And if we still have to go to referendum also, which I have a feeling we probably do,
Doesn't say.
it doesn't say that, but that would be a big change that needs to be set.
Why have a
until-
referendum if the PSC is gonna just,
Yeah,
But
I
I
can't
think
s-
our the PSC would give us a rate that we could ask to be approved by the voting, by the residents.
The other thing I don't understand is all the other things that are under the domain of PSC, they don't have to go to referendum.
they
But
don't.
our stormwater utility was set up by going to referendum.
Well,
I don't-
yeah, we have to go to referendum for stormwater, and we have to go to referendum to raise property taxes for anything other than capital projects. So we can't cover even inflation
Well, right, to be above the levy limit.
to be above the levy line. You have to go to referendum, like if we wanted to add, well, we had to last year for 2 staff police officers. We've got to go to referendum if we want to just increase the operating budget for expense for inflation. We have to go to referendum.
Okay.
I just don't trust the PSC
well,
to make it,
it's gonna cost the city time and money to do this.
yes.
The letter you wrote, I think, clearly stated the reasons why the request from the mayor is to vote no on this. I'm involved with legal municipalities and the APWA, American Public Works Association. Both those organizations are also preparing letters like this for their members to send to their respective representatives.
The one thing I wish the letter would have stated is that we have to go to referendum as it is now. And so we already have a control mechanism.
Add
So,
Oh, yeah,
Sure.
and so it's, I think that would be worth noting.
Fact that we have to go to referendum, and also that we are limited by, we cannot increase anything for inflation.
Yeah.
Without going to referendum.
Now,
I
some
think
people,
that's an important, huge issue.
some people might say that it'd be better for us to go to the PSC because they would understand some of these things better than the public. At the same time, we've got 3 PSC people who are covering a wide variety of stuff. They've got some pretty good staff, but all of a sudden they're going to be tasked with handling how many stormwater utilities across the state?
Well,
And each one is different.
Yeah.
The
With
PSC
sensitivity.
calculated it was gonna cost them somewhere in the range of $600,000 to manage this. That money comes from,
Yeah,
You
they had
guys.
5 full-time staff that they
Right.
said they would add to.
so the stormwater utility members would have to fund that. All that means Middleton and all the other
Yeah.
utilities.
No, that's,
Because the state doesn't, it's a zero budget for the state.
Right.
So they don't care.
so it's an increase of our budget. I think that should go in the letter too.
That's true.
Well, you said here.
This letter
Yep.
already gone out.
No,
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 Is it draft?
it's in draft state.
the draft form. I'm getting there.
I mean, we've got multiple issues where it's gonna
You
hurt.
say the stormwater utilities are already subject to local review, oversight by the city stormwater board, finance committee, common council. You could add and any rate changes must be approved by via referendum, something like that.
Right.
Will be, not
Must
must
be.
be, or
Well,
will be approved,
they
have to be.
will or will not be. You
Yeah.
can't predict a referendum.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the letter also going to the governor.
That's what I was gonna suggest.
yes,
I think he's liable to veto this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because all of our, frankly, all the ones we're writing to are probably opposed to this thing already.
That's true.
We're just telling them what they already feel. If we lived in some other parts of the state,
But it's given them ammunition maybe.
but I agree with the governor,
Yeah.
should be included.
yes.
The other comment I had was, if you, in the letter, there was you made a comment about the adoption of the utility by, well, two different votes twice. We've already had referendum votes. And I think the margin of approval is impressive and might mean, if you just said parenthetically by a 67% vote,
And 75%.
2 numbers.
Right.
Those are
Might-
impressive.
You know,
Yeah, first by 67.
67 for establishing the utility and 75 for the storm repairs.
the rate change.
I think it would delay the process too. I think if they're busy at time to get approval, it could
It's-
be a
it's
year
been-
or two
oh,
before you get approval.
It is. It's an 18-month process to go through this.
And I mean, the inflation issue's got me concerned because how often are we gonna need to go to them?
On the other hand, our rates are lower than the average in the state, aren't they? So
Yeah, well, that's because we
it
don't
might
cover
make it a
it.
little bit easier. They might just approve it, say, hey, Middleton's already below the average.
Yeah,
No,
you're
but,
already 75% below everybody.
yeah, but that's because we don't cover all the things that we need to be covering.
Yeah,
And
but that's subjective of what should be covered and what shouldn't be. Every municipality probably is different.
Yes.
Well, each one is different, but most of them
each one
put
covers.
everything they can in it.
It varies quite a bit across the
Yeah.
state.
But a lot of that's because of
Um,
we can't raise property taxes for inflation.
um,
That
It
is,
seems to me that we had quite a list in the original allowable list of what we can cover in there by the stormwater utility, that we just set the ERU very low. That's what
Well,
it
it
seemed like
was-
to
oh,
me.
it was a complete grab out of the air number.
Yeah,
yes,
Had nothing to do with what we needed to.
it was for big projects which were not getting funded in the capital budget.
But again, my understanding is that number still was not based on any kind of analysis of capital needs.
No, it was,
Short or long term,
I know exactly what it was based on.
it's based on what,
3 projects, 350,000 each.
okay. So you got some comments and suggestions for some minor edits, right?
yes, yep. To add a comment about any rate changes must go to the referendum, to referendum. And then indicating that the first and second passed by a margin of 67% and 75% respectively.
Well, I think we also need to put in something about the inflation.
Well, I'm not, when you say that, Susan. If we want to change the rate for any reason right now,
Inflation
and
included.
including inflation, it has to go to referendum. So why, I'm not sure the point you're making with the
Okay, my
inflation.
point is, and this is just an irritation in terms of the entire budget. Back when we had all the protest against the public unions and so on,
Mhm.
state legislature deleted out of the regulations for what we could levy for inflation.
Okay. But that has nothing to do with the summer utility rate.
Well, you have to cover inflation in there. This has been an issue though, because we can't raise the levy to cover inflation. Middleton has covered all the inflation costs
Okay,
with new growth.
okay,
It's simply not sustainable.
I understand
We
what you're
need
saying.
we need to make it clear because people, the average public does not understand that issue. And when it gets reported on the news that we need to get more money, they never explain it this is the reason.
And that's an issue for property tax changes. I don't understand how it ties into utilities.
There's no difference between the PSC and referendum in terms of, and how much money we can get. Both don't allow for increases for inflation. So that we're missing the differential point between what we have now and PSC.
Yeah, we need to be able to increase stuff for inflation.
Well, yeah.
At our choice. So we can decide to go to referendum every year for inflation.
Any reason, right now in the current regs, any reason you need to change the rate, you can go to referendum for, any reason. But, that's backed up.
How about any rate changes, including inflation, must go to referendum? Does that-
Will go to referendum. Because-
Well, what's there soon? I think must is more definite.
Yeah.
To me,
Okay.
in a defining word,
Yes,
that doesn't sound like an option.
right.
It's not.
So-
It's we're required, so.
Must go to referendum. Under current
Is
statutes.
required to go to
Okay,
because we don't have a choice about it.
We all agree. We all agree with that.
Yeah,
By current legislation, we must or are required to go to referendum. Either one, I don't care.
okay.
We got 15. Chuck, we need to hear from Chuck here.
Go to referendum. So send to the governor. Rate change referendum issue and the previous votes. Yep,
Margin of, okay.
margin of victory if you.
Any other major concerns with the letters?
no,
We didn't
We need,
motion
you
it.
need approval on this or something, or?
I think I would like to send it to council to have the mayor
Well, we're not sending it to council, just, we can
motion.
draft the letter. and-
Okay.
So we're just approving the letter as edited.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
With the
All right,
recommended
I can make that motion.
and I'll second it.
So I have Shaw.
does the council, yeah, are they gonna vote on this letter or not?
No.
The mayor can just send it off?
Yep.
Did I get a second? I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah. Any other discussion?
No.
You want to second it again? No, okay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
And opposed.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Got the proposal here from Harris infiltration feasibility study. Do you want Chuck to do a little explanation or
Yeah,
Richard, do you
Well,
want to start?
I just wanted to say before Chuck gets started, this is something I requested Chuck submit. Terrace infiltration is always something I've thought about since I've been in this line of work. And when I heard about Madison's pilot program, both from Chuck and from Kelly Hilliard, our sustainability coordinator, I thought it was worth looking into here in Middleton.
And just to be clear, the one you're gonna talk about is the most recent pilot, which is being monitored pretty substantially, but they've had this terrace neighborhood program for
a long
a
time.
decade.
Yeah,
I'll ask Chuck, a decade more?
I
Maybe
don't think it's been quite a decade, but it's been probably 5 years at least or more than that.
it's more than
a
that.
little more than that, but anyway, it's been, it's,
Time
they've
ago.
had it for every in Madison, for every street reconstruction project, they do an assessment of the feasibility. And if it is feasible, technically, they'll do basically an interview or discussion with the neighbors. They get to choose. You got to have so many in a row to make it worthwhile. They can't just do one here and one, and they go through a process. There's a letter, an agreement of what the neighbors do and what the city will cover. They've got, I'm gonna say dozens of these around the city, different parts. And Chuck's gonna talk about the specific area on the west side, but. So it's, anyway, it's another tool in the toolbox is what it is. So. What do you want to do, Richard?
The task order was presented in the agenda and packet, and if you had any questions on that, Chuck is here to answer them. Or if you wished to just speak, feel free.
Yeah, I think I took part in a tour of green infrastructure here recently, and we went by several of these that have been installed in the Westmoreland area, and mentioned it to Eric, and he said, yeah, we'd really like to look at that here in the city of Middleton. So we put together this proposal, and that's
I guess,
it. There are a number of issues I think that we want to iron out as far as what Madison has, may not be what we have here in Middleton. Madison has a criteria, for example, that it has to be 10 feet setback from the curb to the sidewalk. And that may limit us quite a bit. We have a lot more narrow terraces than that.
yeah,
They also have a requirement in there that you stay 15 feet away from trees or the drip line, whichever is closer. Well, we have a lot of trees in our terraces. I was out there and I looked at the one in Westmoreland, And those are clearly within the drip line of the trees. So I don't know if these things are really set in stone or whatever. I think a lot of it has to do with the voluntary participation of the landowners, and if they're able to participate, maybe they bend those a little bit, but.
Why the drip line? Why should it not be within the drip line?
Damaging the roots, I think was.
Is that, okay,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
excavation
You lose what? I don't understand why you wouldn't.
damages the roots, because the roots will go out to the
Tree
drip
roots.
line, the tree roots.
Drip line.
Yeah,
But
so what?
You have to,
Well, you
you have
don't
to
wanna-
excavate some of that terrace.
Oh,
down.
so they're worried about damaging a tree,
Damaging,
Yeah.
existing tree.
Of course, how shallow the roots are depends on the type of tree, but
yes, some have,
Let me show
deep
you some
roots.
pictures in front of my house.
So what, Chuck,
Started.
what would you actually do with that project?
Well, basically, go through and itemize, there's a lot of questions there on the summary of Madison's terrace infiltration program. And how that, would apply to, what we're thinking of doing here in the city of Middleton. That would be the first step, is a summary of what they have and how it relates to what we have here in Middleton. The next step would be addressing the pros and cons. Want to scroll a little bit down a little bit. Yeah, so the next step would be addressing the pros and cons of infiltration. And I propose to run some SLAM models of the percent removal, pollutant reduction that we would get for different sizes of terraces that these would be implemented in. And then also the cons, one of the things that I think Eric had mentioned was, we have salt laden runoff there. Is that something that we really want to be infiltrating if it's salt laden in that? So those are some of the issues I think that both pros and cons weighing it out in a written document in terms of how those all play out. And then finally, the third one there in C also is something that consideration is, as Jim's mentioned, Madison does this whenever they're doing street reconstruction. It's a good time, obviously, to do that. But we might want to expand this and have it be something that's not just tied into road reconstruction. It's that we would go out and do these not tied into road reconstruction and that. So that's the third item there under the second task would be, do we want to maybe expand it into doing it in other areas?
Retrofit other areas that are existing.
Right.
Yeah.
That aren't being, the road isn't being reconstructed this year, but
Right.
maybe we go in there. And then look, the last stage would be basically looking at, implementation here in the city of Middleton.
I
And
guess, Chuck, I have the concern in that the last thing needs to be done before you even start this to see how many existing terraces actually fit that 10-foot. Because I don't think there are that many,
You don't have to live with that 10-foot number.
or
No.
it could be
yeah,
8 feet or something like that, but I think that's something we need to know, but like, we've got a lot that are 2 and 3 feet, which is just totally out of the question.
These are I think, we're talking mostly single-family residential or residential type
Yeah,
and streets, mostly. We're not
Yeah.
talking downtown.
downtown, it definitely doesn't, but
Even in the neighborhood that Chuck was looking at recently, Madison had come up with these geometric standards. They're violating them themselves, so what Chuck's gonna look at is, well, where can we fit it? Because our current street standard does not have a 10-foot terrace.
No,
I can't
I
remember.
think it's
not
8.
it's
in there.
8.5.
eight
It's 8
and a half. Middleton Hills is like 8.
Like 3.
So there are places they're not
Like
gonna fit. Yes, but there will be places that could.
But I guess the pertinent question then too is, can we tailor it so it doesn't have to be that 10 feet? Where does that 10 feet come from? And maybe, there's ways we can get around that.
Yes, I think that would come from the side slope. From the curb and gutter and the sidewalk.
Yeah, there's only.
Trying to get it depressed enough such that the water will go in there, get trapped and infiltrate.
And you gotta get it out of there too. There's usually an overflow of some sort to get it out under higher flow conditions.
I was,
Um,
you mentioned salt. I think it almost would be a benefit to divert some of that salt laden water into the infiltration area. not keep it out.
Kill
It's
the
either,
plant.
it's either gonna go there or else into the lake.
It's true.
Like,
I think what Eric had been mentioning was, you know, as you guys well know, there's big movement away from excess of salt in the streets because that saltwater runoff can get into the ground and it's not removed at all by going into the ground. So eventually, you could have some type of saltwater contamination issue in the groundwater from the salt.
Also kill the plants
And yeah,
pretty quickly.
okay, so we have, I don't want to run late. And these are all good things to discuss. But I have three comments to make on this, and one is, I wanted to, you said meetings with the board, with the commission, water resource, and with the board. Can you just specify the number so we know if it's one or two or three? I don't recall seeing a number of
Oh, in
meetings
the task order.
in the task order itself.
I think it's just one meeting at the end of the
So
process.
just say it, just say,
okay.
a presentation will be held. Say one, you say monthly meetings, well,
Okay,
just make it one. I don't want you to
one, right?
promise anymore. Is there agreement that's being referenced in here? It's referencing a general services agreement. Is it a not to exceed type of a language?
It would be,
This task order would have a not to exceed.
Yes, let's put a not to exceed on there. And we're talking
Yeah.
$4,420.
And where's it coming
Yep.
from?
44, yeah, where's it it's coming from? Fees in lieu of? Is that the
It's
idea?
coming from stormwater utility
Oh.
at this point.
Why not fees in lieu of?
If we decided to move forward with something like this, I think it would be appropriate for, to be funded by fees in lieu.
I was wondering why we had a discussion in this committee and not water resources.
Because
Because
it
Should be
in the
an asset of
past
the
used to be
utility.
from,
It's easy.
Well, if it's gonna come from stormwater utility, that's one thing. If it's coming fees in lieu, it should be water
Well, that's a
resources.
good point, Mark.
well, we're getting
You read
into
the choose.
these,
That's why we should combine together.
or the
study would-
results of the study might would come necessarily to water resources. Rather than, this is just asking for a funding source to pay for the concept review. Or the initial design, and then the results would come to water resources.
I guess,
So you're talking about funding it from stormwater utility, right?
just the feasibility.
Yeah.
study.
Just this,
The study,
why are you rationalizing that since in the past it's always been from fees in lieu of these kinds of studies?
Well,
The change.
you can recommend that we fund it with fees in lieu.
I would recommend fees in lieu of.
Fees in lieu are a little questionable too. It really is.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you're pushing
Exactly.
it fees in lieu.
And then you'll have to refer it to water resources.
I think,
and that will get next month. It can't be this month then.
Correct.
correct?
what's wrong with doing with stormwater utility? I mean, that seems like.
I don't,
I'm still going with stormwater utility with how it was originally set up, which was for projects, maybe, construction, maintenance of existing projects.
it's a new era. Welcome to the new.
We've gotten rid of.
Welcome to the new world.
Mark is gone.
Mark is gone.
The ghost is
But I
gone.
still remember what we were promising citizens,
But
and
fees in lieu of has the same problem.
fees in lieu of doesn't come from citizens. It
Susan, I don't
comes
know
from
if you
builders.
were here, but I did get. I wrote a long memo about stormwater utility funding, what was eligible, what was not, and got that approved by finance and council.
Okay, since I was off of council,
I don't remember, but it
I
did
think it must-
loosen the
I think it was.
restrictions.
okay, well, then I need to see that because I'm still going on how we set it up.
Okay, I'm gonna take a motion to accept this proposal with a couple of the notes that we took about the not to exceed and the total dollar $44.20 to be paid for out of stormwater utility funds. Will anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
the only other question I would have is, and we can do this kind of along with what Chuck is doing, I'd like to have a discussion, since Madison has been doing this, I'm familiar with what they've been doing. And Chuck, I know you've talked to Phil Gabler. I'm hoping we can get Phil here sometime, maybe with Chuck or maybe a separate time with Chuck and just. He could talk firsthand about what they've struggled with, what's gone well, what hasn't gone well. Chuck obviously can bring this home to Middleton and what's gonna work here.
I saw on a website where Phil was cleaning one out, showing how to do the maintenance.
Yeah, yeah.
And they literally put together a little YouTube
Well, they got a
video.
whole
of it.
program, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So
we've got
anyway,
a
that's an
lot-
aside. It's,
Salt.
we have a motion and a second.
I got,
Any discussion?
I read Stormwater magazine and the last issue came out, they had bioretention boxes that they put in like this.
Mhm.
And they look like they would be kind of another alternative to look at.
In more of the urban landscape, more of the
Yeah.
hardscape areas, yeah, yeah. But
You-
I don't wanna add that Chuck scope of work though, that's all. I'm-
Well, he could look at the magazine.
Well, you can read the magazine.
We're gonna just go over work with that, Joey. It's in the September, October issue of Stormwater.
I just don't want the expectation that, hey, what happened to your analysis of these boxes? That wasn't part of the scope. I've been in your shoes, okay, trying to protect you.
You could add on a little bit for reading it.
Scope creep. Okay, anything else?
Oh,
Any vote? We got for a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion as read, say aye. Aye. And opposed, nay. Motion was adopted. Thank you, Chuck.
just one more item of discussion.
Thanks, Chuck.
We're rolling over just a little bit.
Yep.
If we can make this brief, I think, just have a discussion about if we want to have what availability of members is for a December meeting to get together and have a discussion about joining the meetings. Joining the meetings or,
Board and the commission.
yeah, the board and the commission, yep. And if we want to do that in December, or if we want to wait. And we can get going on it a little at a time, or wait till January when we got a fresh year and not the holiday season. So I don't have a preference. So it's just kind of up to the members.
We meet the second Wednesday,
20th.
the
20th.
20th.
It'd be December 20th, which is the.
Yeah,
Um,
third Wednesdays.
Yeah,
so first question is anybody gonna be out of town and not available that they know right now?
As far as I know, I'm gonna be around, but due to my father-in-law's health,
Hmm,
I have no idea.
Okay.
But I expect to be around.
Yeah.
Who we missing? You are okay?
mhm.
I'll be
That was
okay.
Jeff Jackson from Stormwater Utility.
And is there one more missing?
Kenora, Pollock, and Jackson
So we're just talking about meeting together.
A joint meeting.
having a joint meeting where we can discuss combining not necessarily finishing, but starting the process.
But they would, how about individual topics? So stormwater utility topics would be discussed by everybody or just by?
No,
No.
just by the committees or the committee or the board, a commission or the board. And then we would maybe have it first and then have that discussion.
Could I make
Last
a
of the
suggestion?
swab. Go ahead.
Why don't you two come up with a letter sort of listing at least the things we need to be thinking about?
I think right,
And
I
that
think
way
the
we
start
could
of that
Think
is
about it.
attendance. If we can, that's kind of what this question is who's gonna be available in December
So I think,
to start that
No, I
discussion.
was thinking instead of meeting in December, you send us a letter and then we meet in January.
Oh, okay,
well, my thought was to send out an email with a very clearly worded, this is a very important question. If you're gonna be available, please let us know now so we can have this joint meeting in December. If you're not,
I-
then we'll know the answer.
I think without taking any action, we can absolutely request attendance poll.
Yeah.
And here's the list why, and as long as we don't send a bunch of emails back and forth to each other, we haven't violated any open records policy. laws.
Everybody here is on both committees, so.
But we
No,
still can't
we've got
discuss it
other
or,
people.
we still
Some other people that are.
or action on it, that's all, yeah.
There's 3 missing right now.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if we could, my opinion is if we could do it, start the discussion in December, that would be a good thing. If it can't happen, well then,
Mhm.
hopefully.
I'm going on vacation after this meeting, so I will try to get something out early in December.
Something else that I think.
That big
needs-
buck. There's one in Middleton Hills, but
I mean,
Something
Florida,
that needs to be included in this discussion is the fees and lieu of program.
but we can't talk about that.
okay.
Not, we can't talk about that now.
We'll have to
No,
cover that.
but I mean, it's part of what needs to be discussed.
I understand, but we still can't talk about that right now. We can't make
Email
that.
Richard and say, I'd like to discuss this at that meeting.
Yep.
Yes.
Only Richard. Okay, no other business? And I guess we're gonna need a move adjourn, need a motion.
Nope.
No? Oh, I just say it? We're
Yeah.
sure.
What's that?
Is that what I did last month? I forget.
Yeah,
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
thank you.
Warren, you're on the hot seat. I'm off.
Okay.